building capacity between the U.S. private sector and the local private sector, and taking the partnership beyond the two governments to the private sector, so that you will have greater integration of the private sector and greater participation. And that is what we want. We have a large diaspora in the U.S. We have great opportunities here, and we want to see more investment. We have said this before. We want to see more investment and more private sector interest from the U.S. So I think this agreement not only sends the right signal, but set the foundation for that collaboration, cooperation, transfer of technology, and more importantly, building of local capacity here in our local private sector. In relation to our exclusive economic zone, it is not only from a maritime perspective, because we would have raised also with the Secretary radar coverage of our exclusive economic zone, which is critical at this time. We have had various difficulties, and I think we welcome any help that would enhance our security, that would enhance our ability to protect our borders, and importantly, enhance our capability and ability to ensure that we go after criminal elements, and this allows us to do that. It strengthens our capacity and it builds that partnership and ensure that this capacity that is so needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Secretary of State, would you like to respond?
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer your questions, but I want to echo something President Ali said. You know, the two agreements we signed this morning are not disconnected. Right? Greater security, greater capacity to understand your border space, what's happening inside your exclusive economic zone. Those are all things that give Guyana sovereignty, the capacity to control its space, and the rule of law, property rights, the things that you all value in democracy. These things are connected. I will say this too, that there was lots of conversations about how there might be more foreign direct investment from the United States. And sometimes I hear, oh, we don't want foreign direct investment, we're concerned about our sovereignty. I would posit this for everyone watching today. The United States model is to build out on the best things of your country. We'll show up, we'll bring capital, we'll bring resources, we'll often bring technological capabilities that are much needed to develop resources, develop infrastructure for your country, but we don't do so with political strings tied to them. We don't operate the way other regimes do, who might show up with money and then demand political retribution, or worse yet, engage in activity that is corrupt. That's not how American foreign direct investment operates. It comes in, we have private sector leaders. You'll see they're disconnected. They're not connected to our government. These aren't state-owned enterprises that come and invest here in Guyana. These are private sector companies looking to make life better for the Guyanese people and to do a good turn for their company as well. And so it's very encouraging to see the request for more foreign direct investment, not just in the energy sector, but across a broad range of opportunities that are going to be presented to the people of Guyana as they make their way through consolidating their democratic election. Second, you asked about the contact group in Venezuela. We know two things. We know that the Maduro regime has decimated the people of Venezuela, and that Maduro himself is an indicted narcotics trafficker. This means he has to leave. For the people of Venezuela to have the democracy that they need, the Cuban security forces must go, and Maduro must leave. And so the efforts to do that, to put diplomatic pressure and to support the Venezuelan people who desperately want that same objective, are the aims of the contact group in the EU, the Lima Group, the OAS, the United States, dozens of countries that have made clear that Juan Guaido is the duly elected leader of Venezuela. This is the objective. We want democracy and freedom and the rule of law, just in the same way we fought for you all to achieve that for yourselves. We want to fight for that to be achieved by the people of Venezuela as well. And then your final point was about Taiwan. We sent a delegation to a funeral, and the Chinese have apparently responded by military blustering. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary of State. I'll now invite my colleague.
For our next question, let's go to Sean Tandon, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for doing this. Could I follow up on the energy issue, asking about Exxon? Exxon, as you know, has a major oil discovery in Guyana. Did you discuss this directly? And the arrangement itself, do you feel that it's equitable? Do you feel that it's fair for Guyana? Is this something that you want to move forward on? And how do you, particularly for Mr. President, how do you look at the long-term consequences of having this growth in oil revenue and the risks? Therefore, as you see in some other countries, the natural resources trap, if you will, of energy growth, of energy wealth. And Mr. Secretary, if I could follow up on one point, there's quite a bit of news today, of course, about TikTok. I wanted to see what you thought, whether you think there could be a resolution, whether you think that TikTok will be permanently banned in the United States, or if the current proposals that you've seen you think could work to safeguard American security. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your question. First of all, we did not discuss issues surrounding Exxon. As you would have realized, I did not address those issues. But I want to say that Guyana is open to investment. We're open to investors. We're open to investment and investors in a transparent manner. And we have said, even prior to the elections, that there are issues that we'll have to review. And as you're aware, we have at the moment a review in terms of the Payara license that is being done. And we have subjected ourselves to professional guidance. And at the end of that review, the government, of course, will have to make an informed decision. Secondly, we have also committed ourselves to arm's length relationship with the management of the sector from a political perspective. So you would not see, for example, a petroleum commission that is controlled by politicians. The management of this resource must be done by competent and qualified technical persons who can ensure that we get the best output from our oil and gas resources. But for us, oil and gas is a great impetus to the more macroeconomic vision for our country. It allows us to build, to expand, and to create environment in which our traditional sector will become competitive, and also gives us additional resources that we can transform the country from an infrastructure perspective, building out the new economy that was focused heavily on knowledge, a knowledge economy, ICT, health and education as export commodities, expanded agriculture. We have a massive market in CARICOM that we can take advantage of, but we have to become competitive. We have to have economies of scale. So the resources would help us to grow these sectors that will bring additional wealth, create new jobs, and expand economic opportunities for our country. That is what is important for us. So oil and gas, I can assure you, will be managed by technically competent people. And of course, we are now relooking at the Sovereign Wealth Fund. To take away, there was a legislation that was passed that had tremendous powers onto the minister who was responsible. We have to remove that, remove those overwhelming power that is assigned to the minister, so that you can have greater transparency and accountability in the management of this sector. But we are committed to supporting investment in the sector, and we are committed in ensuring that Guyanese benefit from these investments. That is why we've established a technical task force to look at local content and to see how we can not only support the local private sector, but how we can build their capacity and ensure that they benefit from local content. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the question. I'll follow up on that. This is the American model. The negotiations with the Guyanese government are between Exxon and the Guyanese government. Look, they've encouraged us to assist in foreign direct investments. We'll do the things we can to help American companies be successful, have access, have opportunities to engage in fair and transparent business dealings with Guyana. And then we did speak about one piece of this, which is that we want to make sure that the same things that President Ali just talked about happen. We want the wealth that is created from these opportunities that are opportunities that belong to the people of Guyana go to all of the people of Guyana, and do so in a transparent, fair way that reflects the democratic election that was just held. I know that President Ali shares this goal as well. You asked a question about TikTok. I don't have much to add to that this morning other than to say we've been focused on this for some time now. The details of the various proposals that have been presented, I can't speak to other than to say our goals are really very straightforward. Protecting American information data from ending up in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. And so while we're reviewing the proposal, trying to evaluate if it can successfully achieve those outcomes, that will be our measure. If it's the case, we will allow private sector entities to move out, to execute on a commercial transaction protecting the American people. So thanks for your question.
Thank you, His Excellency, Mr. President, and thank you, His Excellency, State Secretary, for visiting Guyana. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for coming.